about a common mistake that I see in lifting, especially in females, that can actually be doing you a lot of harm when it comes to the pelvic floor and core and the hips. Okay, so if you're somebody who has some front hip pain, your hip flexors feel tight all the time, you may be struggling to heal a diastasis. Leaking and prolapse are a big component to this as well. These things can be fixed or helped slightly, at least, with this trick, okay? So a lot of times in things like squatting, deadlifts, even bridges sometimes, we can see the over thrusting of your hips. So what I mean by that is if we take a look at a deadlift or an RDL, whichever version you want to do, even a squat, when you go to stand, you shove everything forward, okay? Same thing if I were to do a squat, you come up, squeeze the butt as hard as you can and shove everything forward. That can be really problematic for the hips and the pelvic floor. So if you think about it, as you come up and you squeeze and push everything forward, everything is now has a ton of pressure on the front of my body, especially the core and the hips, okay? You're also over squeezing the glutes, which is going to create some tension down in that pelvic floor. We are kind of shoving that femur forward in the socket by over squeezing and thrusting those hips forward, which can cause a lot of hip flexor pain and tension as well. So what I want you to think about when you go to do your next squat or your next deadlift is coming to that neutral athletic stance. So if this is my neutral athletic stance, I have a slight bend in my knees, my hips are slightly pushed back, and my ribs and my hips are stacked. Okay? Notice knees are locked, hips are forward, my ribs are no longer over my pelvis. So what that looks like if you're doing a squat is you're coming here. Slight squeeze in the glute, maybe 20% of the movement. I'm not locking out my knees, okay? My ribs are staying over my hips. Okay, so you just get a little bit of a squeeze to help the glutes, not so much that you thrust everything forward. Now, if we take a look at that RDL again, same thing, hips go back, and yes, I'm squeezing my glutes slightly, again, maybe 20% to help stand. Most of the glute action is going to happen between this range and here, not at the top, okay? So we don't need to over squeeze. Again, really sitting those hips back, coming to that good stacked posture. Core is then engaged slightly. Glutes are also engaged slightly. You have a lot less tension on your pelvic floor, and you're not shoving everything forward, causing pain and tension where we don't want it. Okay, so think about that the next time you do any kind of lower body exercise. Again, this can be bridges as well. When you bridge up, you can take a look at that. When you bridge up, you want to make sure that your ribs and hips stay stacked throughout the motion. Okay, so really find that good neutral alignment. Bridging up, keeping that alignment, only coming so that everything is nice and straight. Okay, you don't want to lift your hips separately and round and shove them forward. So if you're rounding to get up, you're creating the same kind of over squeeze of the glutes. If you're getting to the top and you're rounding this way, you're also shoving those hips too far forward. Same idea like we just did with the squat and the deadlift, okay? So really paying attention to how you're getting back into position at the top of those movements and making sure that you keep everything nice and stacked and we don't put unnecessary pressure where it doesn't belong. Okay, if some of this doesn't make any sense, feel free to ask any questions you might have, drop a comment below. I will happily get back to you as soon as I can. Or we can always take a look and do an assessment and see if you're moving this way, if you need a little help, okay? But watch that thrust at the top.